Emma's world was the farm, fields that swayed with golden crops, the hum of bees, and the gentle eyes of animals that trusted her kindness. She was quiet, not shy, but the sort of person who found peace in listening rather than speaking. That quietness made her different, and in the small town nearby, different was too often mistaken for weakness. On that afternoon, the laughter of bullies shattered the calm. They circled her near the old oak tree, sneering at her worn boots, her soft voice, the way she didn't fight back. Their taunts grew bolder, crueler, until rough hands tied her to the tree with coarse rope. She winced but didn't cry out. Tears, she knew, would only feed their cruelty. Alone in the field as they jeered, her breath came sharp, fear mixing with a deep ache of betrayal. Yet inside her pocket, pressed against her hip, was her phone. With wrists bound, she fumbled, her fingers trembling until she managed to press a single button. One call. That was all it took. Thousands of miles away, her husband Daniel was in the middle of training, Delta Force, a man sharpened by battles most people could never imagine. But when her cracked, frightened whisper reached his ear, every battlefield faded. His world narrowed to one mission: get to her. For Emma, waiting in the fading light, the field felt endless and her body felt small against the rough bark, but her heart held to a simple truth: she was not alone. Somewhere out there, the man who had once told her she was his quiet anchor was already moving toward her. And though the bullies still laughed, a storm was coming, and with it, a strength they had never seen before. Daniel's boots hit the ground with the rhythm of urgency, his breath steady though his heart was pounding in a way no battlefield ever had. The drive back felt like an eternity, every second stretching, every mile a test of his control. He wasn't just a soldier now. He was a husband racing to protect the woman who had once saved him from his own storms. The bullies lingered by the tree as dusk settled, their laughter sharp against the quiet of the countryside, but it had already begun to falter. Something in the air shifted, heavy like the sky before rain. Headlights broke through the darkness, cutting across the field and sweeping over their startled faces. A truck door slammed shut, and out stepped Daniel. He wasn't in uniform, no rifle on his back, but the strength he carried was unmistakable. His presence filled the space, calm yet terrifying to anyone who had built their courage on cruelty. The boys froze, caught between pride and fear, their mockery shrinking in their throats. They had never faced eyes like his before, eyes that had stared into war, eyes that had seen death and chosen life. The field grew quiet except for the wind rustling through the grass, and the bullies, once loud and bold, began to scatter. Their sneakers slapped against the dirt as they ran, leaving Emma tied to the oak, her hair damp with the evening mist, her face streaked with tears she had tried so hard to hold back. Daniel's steps were steady as he crossed the distance, his hands reaching for the rope with a gentleness that betrayed the warrior's edge in him. The storm had arrived, not in rage or violence, but in the unshakable force of love returning home. The ropes loosened beneath Daniel's firm hands, and as the last knot gave way, Emma stumbled forward into his arms. For a moment, neither spoke. She pressed her cheek against his chest, and the steady beat of his heart drowned out the echoes of the bullies' laughter. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier, washing the dust and fear from her face. Daniel bent his head close, whispering, "You're safe now," words as steady as stone. Emma clung to him, not because she was weak, but because he was the place her courage found its roots. When she finally lifted her eyes, the bullies hadn't completely gone. They lingered at the edge of the field, soaked by the storm, their bravado dissolved into uneasy silence. Daniel turned to them, his posture unshaken, his voice low but carrying across the rain. "Strength isn't found in hurting the gentle," he said, each word measured. "It's in protecting them." The boys shifted, their eyes falling to the ground, shame burning hotter than any reprimand. They expected fury, maybe even fists. Instead, they found something stronger, discipline wrapped in compassion, the kind of power that didn't need to prove itself through cruelty. Emma felt it too, the weight of his words sinking into her as deeply as the rain into the earth. For years she had carried the belief that being quiet meant being small, easy to overlook. But in that moment, standing beside the man who loved her fiercely yet spoke with mercy, she saw it differently. Her quietness had never been weakness. It was the space where love could echo loudest. And as Daniel slipped his arm around her shoulders, leading her away from the oak, the storm seemed to soften, as if even the sky had heard the truth. The rain eased into a drizzle, leaving the fields glistening under the glow of a rising moon. Emma walked slowly at Daniel's side, her steps shaky but sure, every breath reminding her she was free. He glanced at her, searching her face for cracks, for hurt she hadn't spoken, but what he saw instead was resilience. She had endured. She always had. He squeezed her hand, not to steady her, but to honor the strength she had shown when no one was there to see. Behind them, the bullies lingered in silence, drenched and shivering, their arrogance stripped bare. Daniel could have chased them down, unleashed his training, made them taste the fear they had forced on Emma. But he didn't. Instead, he stopped, turned back, and let his words carry once more across the wet grass. "One day," he said, "you'll understand that how you treat people defines the kind of men you become. Don't waste your strength breaking others. Use it to build." The boys didn't answer, but their shoulders sagged. Something in his voice, calm, steady, unshaken, cut deeper than anger ever could. Emma watched their expressions shift, saw the walls of cruelty begin to crack. And in that moment, she realized that kindness, even when spoken through rain and sorrow, could be sharper than any blade. Daniel's arm stayed around her as they reached the farmhouse porch, the warm glow of a light spilling through the window. It wasn't just safety she felt, but a kind of quiet triumph. The field that had once been her prison was now a place where cruelty had been met not with vengeance, but with strength and mercy intertwined. And as the night settled, Emma knew something had changed, not just in her, but in those who had tried to break her. Morning broke with a soft golden light, the fields shining as if the storm had never passed. Emma stood on the porch, a blanket draped around her shoulders, watching the horizon. The old oak tree was still there, its bark scarred by ropes, but it no longer felt like a symbol of cruelty. It was a reminder of what love and courage could overcome. Daniel stepped outside, coffee steaming in his hand, and placed it gently beside her. He didn't need to speak, his presence was enough. Emma leaned against him, feeling the steadiness of his frame and the quiet warmth in his eyes. She thought of the boys who had tied her there, how their laughter had carried malice, how quickly it had faded when they faced real strength. She hoped they remembered his words, not as a warning, but as a seed. Maybe one day, they would learn what true power looked like, not in tearing people down, but in lifting them up. For the first time in years, Emma felt no shame in her quietness. She saw now that silence was not emptiness, it was depth. It was the space where compassion could live, where kindness could echo louder than cruelty. And with Daniel by her side, she understood that even the softest voice could change the world when joined with love. As the sun climbed higher, spilling warmth across the land, Emma's heart swelled with hope. The farm was still the same, the animals still stirred in their pens, but something in her had shifted. She was no longer just the quiet farm girl. She was a woman who had faced cruelty and stood taller on the other side, her spirit unbroken. And in that rising light, she believed, kindness, no matter how small, could outlast any storm.